In this year, 2021, we have not lost one military life so far in combat. For the first time in many years, we have not lost a military life in combat. There's been a couple lost due to incidents and stuff like that, but we're talking about in combat. Now, God gives us these reprieves, these lull periods, time to recuperate, time to reflect, time to look back. In my family, I have had at least one person fight in every war all the way back to the beginning of the country. At least one person. I even have people who fought in the Indian Wars. You should say Native American. Indian is a bad word now. But fought in those wars on the Native American side. I call it the true Americans. Okay? But in all of that, I look back, and every one of those were purposeful. It was not a waste. It was not what people would say now, that why are we doing this? We would not have this country anymore had it not been the ones before us that were willing to step out and say, I'll go. So, American military deaths in major wars. If you look back at that, we lost 25,000 in the Revolutionary War, 13,000 in the Mexican-American War. We lost 116,000 Americans in World War I, and 460,000 Americans gave their life in World War II. In the Korean War, 36,000, Vietnam War, 58,000, and the Iraqi War, 4,400, and the Afghanistan War, 2,300. So who were these people who were willing to step up and do this? It was the sons and daughters of Americans throughout this country. In World War II, if you lost a child in battle, the U.S. government would come to your house, knock on your door, give you a flag and a gold star that you put in your window. There are several stories. One of them is the Sullivans. Tragic. All 5 brothers served on the same battleship. And when that ship went down, they delivered 5 gold stars to that mother. And that changed the rules in the military to where a family could no longer have more than 2 sons serving in the same place on the same ship or in the same division at one time. Doesn't mean that mothers didn't lose their children during the war, but it didn't all happen in one incident. So who were they? The worst day for Americans, casualties in Afghanistan, was on August 6th of 2011 when Chinook 47 Chinook helicopter carrying Navy SEALs was shot down by a rocket-propelled grenade over eastern Afghanistan. 30 Americans, including 22 Navy SEALs, were killed in the crash. These were our sons and daughters. And we're still sacrificing. Air Force Senior Airman Joseph, I can't say that name, but I think it's Fenn, 26, of Anaheim, California, died on September 12th of last year in a single vehicle, non-combat related accident while conducting a routine patrol outside the perimeter of the air base in Kuwait in support of Operation Inherent Resolve. The cause of the accident is still under investigation. They call it non-combat if they can't prove that an insurgent actively was attacking the person. If it's a roadside bomb, That's not classified by the same thing. But that's still going on today. So we have been very fortunate in the first part of this year. Here we are right up on June, and we haven't lost an American to a casualty in combat this year. Now we're on the big drawdown. So we're going to pull in. Now we have, as a nation, have done this probably 10, 12 times in our history, where we pull all of our military back to the U.S. borders or U.S. concerns. Okay? There's a problem in doing that. When you pull everybody back here, some people would call that going into isolationism, and we say American protect America and American interest. We still have bases in Japan, Kuwait, and places like that, but when we draw out of these hot zones and we let the world be the world, where is the Christian base? It's in Europe and here, and England. Those are the biggest bases. Okay? So where does God see and hear from Christians? Where the base is. So what does that do to some of the other places in the world where Christianity isn't having an impact at all? Where American soldiers carrying crosses and Bibles aren't there anymore? What happens there? Well, we've seen in isolationism before, what happens is the evil festers and eventually comes here. So if we don't fight problems where they are, we end up fighting them here. Sorry, I had to get on my little soapbox as an ex-military person. But I love the fact that we have a strong military. We need to keep our strong military, and we need to support our military. Last time we had a big drawdown, change of administration, big drawdown, so pulled everybody back in the U.S. and let a big, huge part of our military go. Problems started. We need to keep our military strong. They are what protects us. President Pash used to say, he had a favorite saying, he says, we're a peaceful nation, but we need to carry a big stick. Freedom's not free. Freedom's not free. You see families here on Memorial Day are visiting the ones that can't come home. Ones that didn't make it back. When I was a child, at 17 years old, and the Vietnam War was going strong, I was watching my friends get drafted into the Army. And they'd go away for 6 weeks to boot camp, and they'd come back home, we'd throw them a big party because they were leaving, headed to Vietnam. And most of them would come back in 3 to 5 weeks in a body bag. I watched that happen. Helped me make the decision of where I was going. That's why I joined the Navy. But these families are willing to give and willing to serve. It doesn't matter what the war or what the politics of a war is. They were willing to say, yes, I'll go. I love this country. I love the people of this country. And I will go and I will fight for this country. Not everybody has that heart, that they're willing to give it all for this country. The cost of freedom. Little point. We cherish too the poppy red that grows on fields where valor led. It seems to signal to the sky that blood of heroes never dies. Our precious blood has been spilled on battlefields across this world to protect the people at home so we can do what we're doing right now. Because there are forces in this world that would like to end assemblies like what we have. They would like to stop this. Who are those forces? Doesn't matter. Who are they driven by? The devil. They're driven by the devil. The devil wants nothing more than to see the end of Christianity as a whole. It'll never happen. You know the funniest thing that we've noticed through history? The harder that you press down on Christians, the more the faith grows. The harder you press, the more the faith grows. When we come under persecution, you know what we do? We bond together. They were saying in the days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, this country's will became iron with a single sole purpose. How do I know this? They had children such as my father who joined organizations called the 10 organizations, where they would go out into scrap fields, junkyards, and everywhere else looking for metal that could be used to help make the equipment for Americans to fight with. They were too young. They had people that were going through the dumps, the old dumps, and collecting rags. And those rags were sent back, broken down, and turned into medical supplies that could be used. This whole nation, in every way, turned out to make sure that we're still here all these years later and still able to do and have the freedoms that we have now. It didn't come cheap. And across this nation on this day, it's not a happy day. Most of this nation's out, what are we doing? We're at barbecues and celebrations and all that. But not here. Not for that child. She spends her day with a poem in her hand, reading to her daddy, who can't hear. Yes, sir. It has taken blood and sacrifice to keep this nation strong and safe. It will take blood and sacrifice in the future to continue to keep this nation strong and safe. And so that we continue to be a nation under God. One of the problems we're having now is less and less can we say we're a nation under God. When they go out and they do their surveys, the size of the Christian church here in America is shrinking. Here's the funny thing. Across the world, the size of Christianity is growing. Why? I call it easy Christianity. What do you have to sacrifice to be a Christian here in this country? Maybe you may be made a little bit of fun of. Maybe somebody will yell at you. Maybe you'll have a door slammed in your face. Maybe somebody will make a rude comment about the shirt you're wearing if you say something about Jesus. But there's no really consequences for being a Christian. In other parts of the world, people are dying for saying the words, "No, I won't renounce Christ." Yes, I am a Christian. And they die from it. But in their country, Christianity grows. Faith grows. If you believe in Revelations, there will come a time when our era of easy Christianity will come to an end. When Christians of this nation and across the world will all be under pressure from the devil through all kinds of forces, if you believe what Revelation says, including their own governments across this world, will turn on Christianity. And then you'll have to show that you love Christ, not just say you love Christ. We love this nation, but first you need to love God. Jesus sacrificed. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. There is a big word in there. Whosoever. It makes no delineations between anybody in this world, regardless of who they are, where they're from, what their background is. Everybody has the right to go to heaven. And we have the responsibility to bring the Word to all the world. You say, well, we're just a little church. How are we going to do that? We do it every day. Sometimes you do something and it's just an automatic thing and you don't think about it. You know, it's like those people that have in their bank accounts where it automatically takes out the payment for their insurance and they check their check. Oh, well, they took out the insurance. Well, folks, some things need to be that way. We need to make the decision to do it, and we do it. How do we do it here? It's called the cooperative program. Through the cooperative program, we give money every month out of our tithes and offerings that support missionaries in countries across the world, and some of those countries hate Christians. And our missionaries take their lives in their own hands when they go in those countries and they speak the Word. And we support that. We give to that. We're part of that. Romans 5:8. But God commanded his love towards us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Do you know Christ prayed for those who put him on the cross? Can you imagine that? Somebody is going to take you and nail you to a tree, and you're going to pray for them and ask God to forgive them for what they're doing? I'm human. It's hard for me to have good feelings towards those that are currently hurting me. That's when God can be God. And we're just human. And that's why we love him. Jesus' sacrifice, John 15:25. But this cometh to pass, that the word might be fulfilled, that is written in their law. They hated me without a cause. Jesus didn't do anything to the Romans or to the Jewish that broke any of their laws except for their personal Jewish created laws. But against the true laws of the Jewish nation, the laws of Moses, Jesus did nothing. He was perfect. And no time in his life did he sin. So he didn't have to pay for his sins. He paid for ours. Mark 10:45. For even the Son of Man did not come to serve, but to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. His whole life, and ours too, should be about service. Jesus understands the heart of the American volunteer. He understands their heart. He gave up all to come here and live the human experience. Folks, let's think about this. He was in heaven on his throne with his crown on his head and his robe on his shoulders. And he gave up all of that to come down here to be born in the trough of a manger, live a perfect life while those around him were not perfect, grow up, always looking forward to a cross in his future, die on the cross and rise again because he loved us. Not for anything that we did, not for anything that we're doing, but because he loved us and he wanted us back. Luke 23:37. And saying, if you are the King of the Jews, save yourself. The crowd at the cross taunted Jesus. You know that at any moment there was a legion of angels. Legion. How do we explain the legion? Okay. You have a centurion over 100. And then you'll have a commander over 100. And then you'll have the legion commander. So thousands upon thousands of angels were waiting for the moment for Jesus to say, come help me. Can you imagine the battle? When you see what one angel did to the nation of Israel, how because David sinned, one angel went across the country killing thousands of people and stopped at Jerusalem. And David looks up and the angel's there with his sword drawn, ready to destroy Jerusalem, and God stayed his hand. That was one angel. Jesus had a legion dying to come down. Because what were humans doing? Here's what we don't think about. What were humans doing? They were killing their commander, their chief, their captain, their God. We were doing that, and they were told to do nothing. They say that on that day, the earth shook and the graves opened. And the separation between the outer temple and the inner temple ripped in half. I think it was the angels pitching a fit. Because they had to stand there and watch what we did to the one they loved. And they weren't allowed to do anything about it. Imagine they were stomping their feet. They were yelling down at the humans as we did that. Puts a different spin on it, doesn't it? They'd spent eternity right there with Jesus, under his command the whole time. But they weren't allowed to do anything. With all they are capable of doing, they were not allowed to do anything. 2 Peter 1:16. For we have not followed cunningly devised fables, when we make it known unto you the power and the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but were eyewitnesses of his majesty. The disciples got to follow Jesus all the way through and see what was happening and watch Jesus and make the decision, I'm following him. And understand, of the 12 disciples, only one of them lived a normal life until he died a normal death. 11 of the 12, all were martyred. They made the decision to follow Jesus. And they set the example for all Christians from that point forward of what we're supposed to be like. We're supposed to be devoted to Jesus Christ and him only. Some action points. Thank someone in uniform this week if you see them. 2, pray for our country and our leaders. It's civil service. Submit to God's authority in your life and look around you and reach out and help somebody this week. I don't care if it's a phone call or you write somebody a note. Reach out to somebody and help them this week.